Different with a literacy gang. We in our own lane and we got our own slang. We do our own thing with a literacy gang. We in our own lane and we got our own slang. We do our own thing with a literacy gang.
Greetings, Virtual Village family. How are you all doing this evening? I hope you all are doing well. I am very happy to be here, and you all see that I got my partner in learning and literacy and all things great here with me, Mr. Rodney Jordan. How are you doing this evening, Rodney?
I am doing excellent. So good to see you as always.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, we have a great lineup tonight. I'm excited about what we are going to be talking about. You guys, if you're familiar with the pattern of the show, then you know on Mondays and Wednesdays, we have our teachers come on here to do the foundational literacy instruction. But on Tuesday, it's Rodney and me, and we have a guest who is our community connector. Well, unfortunately, this evening at the last minute, we found out our guest was under the weather and won't be able to join us. So hopefully she'll be able to come back again later. But in the meantime, in between time, y'all have Rodney and me all night for the whole hour. It's just us. Yay! And we are excited. You know, let's see. Rodney and I are always cutting up backstage before we get up here. You know, sometimes talking about what we're going to talk about, things that are going on in education and just things that are going on in the world. And we're excited to share these things with you guys. Tonight, if you guys follow our posts, then you know that our historic figure for the evening is Sister Fannie Lou Hamer. And you also know that we're going to be talking about Black History Month. I think before we get into Sister Fannie, this time around with Black History Month, Rodney, I don't know if you're hearing it, but I am hearing some of the most anti-Black History Month chatter than I have ever heard in my life. Like, I feel it's mostly anti-Black History Month. Then I'm not hearing much about it at all. And then there's the, co-opting and the commercialization of it. What is the chatter that you are hearing about Black History Month? What are you seeing on social media and in your circles?
So, I'm still kind of hearing the traditional discussion around Black History Month. I always hear the comment, oh, they gave us the shortest month of the year. Then I have to explain how Black History Month came about, and we're in Negro Week, and why it's February, so nobody gave us anything, nobody took anything away. So there's always that, and then there's it's always interesting because to prove why we need Black History Month, there are folks that don't seem to have a lot of exposure to the great legacy and history that we have, and right now, I think I'm more in tune with it from a school system perspective, because in Virginia and in many school divisions around the country, this importance of culturally affirming literature, culturally relevant pedagogy is being discussed now, and so I think there at that level, there's more recognition and understanding of the importance of telling a full story. So I'm hearing it more from my school board hat perspective than I typically am from the community connector perspective, so to speak.
Interesting. Now, why is the community sizzle low? Why aren't we having more, discussion and more? I when I say that I've been hearing a lot of negativity, a lot of people are saying it's not relevant. Of course, as you said, there's the recycle. They gave us the shortest month of the year. Now I've been hearing that one forever. And yeah, people are, and then the other one is the chatter of, well, we don't need a month. I celebrate Black History all year long. And some people are like, while y'all doing Black History in February, I'm doing it all year. And so I like just all of the positivity and excitement about it. I'm not getting that much. I'm not hearing that much of it. And so, I heard a conversation too where people were talking about it being co-opted. Like there was somebody mentioning that Apple, I believe they said, has a watch band that is red, black, and green, and that you can purchase that for Black History Month. And I was like, oh wow, I'm not surprised. But I hope nobody has gone out and purchased that in the sake of celebrating Black History Month, at least not a Black person. I hope that has not happened. And I think that's why a lot of people are frustrated, because I think people are starting to feel it's been diluted. And so to me, when we go back, we read the book last week, Carter Reads the Newspaper, and we talked about the founder of Negro History Week, Dr. Carter G. Woodson. And I mean, my question then was, for us to begin tonight before we discuss Sister Fannie Lou Hamer, is what does Black History Month deserve from Black people in 2021, considering the origins and, our literacy gang audience, we sat through here and read this book and learned about a children's book that taught about Dr. Woodson's less than meager beginnings and his quest for knowledge and his desire to make sure that we know our history and that we tell our own stories. And then fast forward to the year 20. And I believe I talked about the fact that whenever he passed away, I don't remember what the year was, but my parents were alive. I know that my parents were alive during that year. So, I mean, we're not talking about something, again, that is ancient history. We're talking about someone who walked the earth still, while people who are still walking the earth very well right now, at the same time. So understanding all that was put in that for, the reason why he created Negro History Week. And now here we are in 2021 with Black History Month. Is it something that's worth us saying we need to discard it? Or do we owe Black History Month and Black history, period, something more as Black people? What's your thought?
Well, you and I always have this thread of a conversation. So you asked me, do I think we need it as Black people? I mean, my answer to that is yes. But I think as equally as important, or maybe I shouldn't say equally, but as important, I think the world needs to know this history. And so to me, there's always this ongoing struggle between, we doing FUBU, for us, by us, but are we also recognizing the fact that in this history is strength and brilliance that the whole world needs to know and benefit from for a variety of reasons. And so I'm not, if Apple has a red, black, and green wristband, that bothers me less than when I see some of these woke folks out there doing potato chip commercials. So, I think that Black history is important. I think it is important for people of African descent to know, for our own knowledge and pride and sense of who we are and our greatness and seeing the strengths that we have. But I also think that it's our responsibility, and I think Carter G. Woodson would have us to say that not only is it beneficial for us to understand who we are, but it's beneficial for the world to know who we are for a variety of reasons, not to lose sight of the fact that a lot of the superiority mythology that exists for a lack of knowledge. It exists because of ignorance. There was a story in the press this past week or the past few days about a school in Utah where they wanted to provide, the parents wanted to opt their children out of curriculum around Black history. And so, as you've heard me say many times, I think that's where our country falls short, and you end up with riots in the Capitol, and you end up with police brutality, and you end up with so many other perversions because people don't know the history and don't learn how to value all the greatness and assets that all of us bring to the table. So I think Black History Month is as important and as relevant to those of us from African descent, or at least African Americans, Black folks, because all of us are from African descent, but as well as uh, uh, whites and Caucasians and Latinos and every other ethnicity that people want to describe.
And I don't, I think that my comment was not negating that. But I think our perspectives of priority are different, because when I ask what does it deserve from Black people, even, I mean, just the affirmation of Black people and Black culture is not anything. It's on its own. It doesn't have anything to do with any other group. Leaving anybody out, putting anybody in. It's just like if we're having a boys choir or a girls choir, if we are having a conversation, with people who stay on this side of the road or that side of the road, there's no ill will or whatever. It's just the focus group right now. And so, I believe that if you don't, it's very important for you to know your own value and your worth first. Because to me, if you don't, that's how you get co-opted. And that's how you get taken advantage of. And so that's why my focus right now is on Black people. And I really think that a lot of times other groups do know exactly what we have done. And that's why it's been intentionally hidden. And so it's important for us to uncover those truths and to be empowered by those. Because, yeah, again, if we don't know them and other people know them, then, that puts us at a situation of disadvantage as well. So I definitely think, yes, everybody needs to get this Black accomplishment, know what we have done. We have impacted the country. We have impacted the world. Our movements have been modeled, across the globe when it comes to liberation. So definitely that. But I think we still have a ways to go because things have been hidden so much, and because certain prices that have been attached to seeking out these things, whether it's the price of facing Trump, whether it is the price of actually dealing with backlash that could come with losing livelihood, losing your life, all kind of heavy penalties that have been imposed upon people. I think we still have a ways to go with making sure that we know who we are. So when I talk about, let's unpack what is Black History Month, and this is my perspective of that, deserve from Black people, I'm thinking of things such as more than demonstrative things. More than just ceremonious things, really taking the time to look at the impact, to think about the price that was paid, the brilliance behind the courage, but like really to take that on and to feel that, for it not to just be a ceremony, but to have an understanding and to use this something as something that is a source of pride, but a source of knowledge that propels us forward. To make sure, for all the naysayers who are saying that just celebrating Black History Month during February, I agree. Like, if that's all you're doing, if February is the only time that you are celebrating Black history and Black culture, I don't think that was the intention of Dr. Woodson. I don't think that that's how that should go. And it's certainly not how it goes for me. I know it's not how it goes for you. Again, I've been saying all month long that is the time where we collectively come together and show our work. I think, we should have been doing things all throughout the year, but, it's a time where we all come together and collectively talk about this thing. I may have a project going on that is, March through October, and then, but collectively in February, I'm reporting. I'm reporting on that. I'm talking to everybody about this thing. Again, it's like a birthday. I keep saying that. But that's my perspective on that as to, Black History Month. I think it deserves more from us. I think it deserves more than just signs. I think it deserves more than regurgitated facts. the same people being talked about over and over again, and even within those same people, reaching deeper into who they were and how that impacts our lives today, and dissecting the humanity of them, the obstacles that they faced, and all that it took for them to prevail in the way in which they're being talked about right here, right now, today, and to recognize in our young people those traits, those characteristics, and build them up so that they, we have Chinese, we have Kalias, we have Shania, we have Peyton. Are we building them up to be, that, and are we providing safety nets around them that protects them and propels them? Are we creating Black history? So I don't think that we should be spectators of Black history. We should be creators of Black history. We should be protectors of Black history. We should be recorders of Black history. So I think Black people, we owe Black History Month and Black history in general a lot, and we should be guardians. We should be guardians of it, so it's not co-opted. Because to me, Apple having a red, black, and I mean, it's not just Apple. It's just so many things now where you're like, okay, you're commercializing something that is near and dear and very important, where a lot of people die. It's I don't know if it's the Holocaust swatch, a watch band or anything like that, anything commemorating that is such a type of way that we're seeing performative things for Black History Month. And I think that's what's turning people off. And so I know the blood of our ancestors flow through me. And I know that that's what fuels, again, Dr. Carter G. Woodson, that's what fueled him, and knowing how our history was stolen from us and making sure that we have an understanding of it and paying homage to the people who paved this way. So we owe Black History Month more. And if we can't say what we are doing during February to honor the past and propel the future, if we can't say what we are doing in January and March all the way to December, then I think we're failing. We are failing Dr. Woods' vision and his hard work. We are failing our ancestors. But the thing about if you're failing, you can always stop. You can always stop, and you can always, not fail. It's a decision to make.
Well, I agree with you. You hit on so many important points. One I will pick out and uplift is the history is being made every day. So, if the thought process of some is that Black history is some finite set of facts that's in some books, like you say, Martin Luther King, Carter G. Woodson, Muhammad Ali, Arthur Ashe. I mean, if that's the breadth and depth of what you understand, then we are definitely missing the point in our undervaluing the importance. Every day, history is being made. And then while we do take some time, and I think my concern with the, if you want to say in terms of the national media or the national sponsors, I think you've got a couple of things going on this year. So you've had all of this corporate response to the Black Lives Matter movement, and everybody's woke now, and everybody wants to sponsor wokeness, and so I think there has been a oversaturation to some respect of some things that it may feel like it's being watered down, and so that has kind of transitioned into Black History Month. But just local history, just taking the opportunity to learn and know your own family history, just knowing what happens on a local level. There's so much that gets overlooked and doesn't get mined and given attention to. I mean, you never stop learning, and I think that's what Carter G. Woodson, as we read in the book that you held up, was talking about. Learning is ongoing. Learning never stops. And so if we're going to uplift learning, if we're going to say that literacy is liberation, then the liberation part comes in what you are exposed to and what you read. And so I agree with you. I think Black History Month just gives an opportunity of focus and centering around particular efforts during the month of February. And I don't see anything wrong with that. And I think we should be uplifting it, and we should be deepening it. And even as we talk about things that were hidden, we discussed a couple weeks ago. It's a lot harder to hide things today than it was in 1875 and 1933 and 1950. We're up here right now sharing information that people can pick up and share. And if they're out there listening, they ought to be giving us a share right now. But we're in a different age. And I think we have to learn how to adapt to the age and not do what Carter G. Woodson warned us not to do, which is, keep going through the back door. And if we can't find one, cut the one for our benefit. Front door, create the door, create the house, create the pathway, and provide leadership for what's needed.
Definitely. So with that, it is, we are going to go into our moment in history, because we told you all tonight that it is about Sister Fannie Lou Hamer. And so we are going to have our young people bring on, well, wait a minute. We completely forgot. We got we don't convene, you and I, every day anymore, and we get wrapped up into our conversation. We forgot about our Shania. So we got to run back a little bit.
Affirmation time?
Affirmed by our Shania, and then we're going to run on into our moment in history. So don't y'all go anywhere, and check this out.
It's affirmation time.
Greetings, virtual villagers. My name is Shania, and do you know what time it is? It's affirmation time! Time to remind ourselves how great we are. So everybody, repeat after me. I am smart. I have purpose. I am confident. I am valuable. My voice is worthy of being heard. I am an asset to my family, school, and community. I respect myself and I respect others. I am beautifully made inside and out. I love my beautiful hair and I love my beautiful brown skin. I am more than enough. Great job, virtual villagers. Can I get a virtual high five? Great job. And always remember how fantastic you are.
Villagers, I'm Talia, and I know you guys are waiting for it. I know you guys are ready. Here's today's moment in history. Fannie Lou Hamer. Born into sharecropping in the Mississippi Delta region in 1917, Fannie Lou Townsend Hamer was a force to be reckoned with during the American Civil Rights Movement. Miss Hamer was the only person able to read and write on the plantation that she worked on, which led her to be a leader in her community. Having been incensed by the denial of Black people to vote in the extremely racist Mississippi, she led 17 other brave volunteers to register to vote in the Indianola, Mississippi, where they were met with excessive racism and barred from voting due to an unconstitutional and illogical literacy test. 2 years later, in 1963, after continuing her electoral ballot with the people of Mississippi, along with the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee and the Southern Christian Leadership Conference, she was able to not only register to vote, but help organize the masses of Black Mississippi into the Mississippi Freedom Democratic Party in 1964. Later on, she'd go on to establish several economic ventures that ensured the livelihood and sustainability of her community through the Pig Bank, which provided free pigs for Black farmers to use. The Freedom Farm Cooperative, buying land from Black people to use collectively to farm and live, as well as 200 low-income housing units in Ruleville, Mississippi. A true revolutionary and freedom fighter, her memory serves to show us all that we can help our communities in a variety of ways.
The Virtual Village Show is back with Season 4, starting February 1st every Monday through Wednesday. The Virtual Village is ready to inspire all ages. Our industry-leading teachers are here to reinforce foundational literacy skills, provide culturally affirming literature, and we have exciting Black History facts for the entire family. Log on today at clevercommunities.org or visit our social media pages.
After the holidays are over, most Americans prepare for taxes. Titan Tax is ready to make filing your taxes as stress-free as possible. This veteran-owned virtual tax office will prepare and submit your tax return safely from the comfort of your home. If you filed unemployment for the first time or wondering about home office tax deductions, Titan Tax Professional has the answer for you. Contact us today at TitanTax.com or 757-565-7781. Titan Tax, real help from real people.
Ooh, the little Titan tax commercial always has me as a reminder in my ear, like tax season. But look, so yeah, Shania got us all amped up. We had a wonderful conversation going there in the beginning, and I think all of that is important. All of that is important to dissect and for us to evaluate and reevaluate and to always be thinking and moving forward. And as Shania said, I have purpose, so we're moving forward with purpose. We owe that to our history, to our ancestors, to our future, to always be moving with purpose. So, and Kalia brought that information about Sister Fannie Lou Hamer. And so right now, Rodney and I are going to get into this reading. So I suggest you guys really, if you have a snack that you like, whatever it is that makes you feel comfortable right now, I hope you have some little ones with you, but people who love, all of you who love to hear Black stories, now is the time, because this is a great book that we are about to read. It's called Voice of Freedom, Fannie Lou Hamer, and it was written by Carol Boston Weatherford and illustrated by Ikua Holmes. And so we are going to go into this. Rodney and I, we are co-readers, and we're going to read about Sister Fannie Lou Hamer. And it's I enjoyed this. I definitely enjoyed reading this. And I think some of you may learn some things about it. Children's books can teach a lot. Like, you'd be surprised how much children's books can give you. And, hopefully it wets your whistle to learn even more. It'll wet your palate. But let's see here. We're going to get into this. And one thing about Sister Fannie Lou Hamer, when we say I am the people, when Brother Fred Hampton would say that, Sister Fannie Lou Hamer was the people. She definitely was the people. And that was something that was so great and dynamic about her. So we're going to dive into this story right now. So again, I hope you're in your comfortable chair, your comfortable bed, you got your slippers, your little, whatever you are. You got some tea, some coffee, some juice, whatever it may be. So we're going to go. Rodney, I'm going to kick it off. Is that all right with you?
Please go right ahead.
All right. So Sunflower County, Mississippi. Minister Malcolm X once called me the country's #1 freedom fighting woman. But nothing about my beginnings would make you think anyone beyond these parts would ever hear my name. Mississippi, I was born here, the youngest of 20 children. My folks, James and Lou Ella Townsend, were sharecroppers in Sunflower County in the Delta, where the soil was as rich as Black folks was poor, where cotton was king and Jim Crow the law. When I was born on October 6, 1917, the plantation owner paid my mother $50 for producing a future field hand. The money helped my family through the winter. Child, I am proof that the Delta birthed the blues.
Speaking of Delta blues, I was just 6 when I dragged my first bag down a row of cotton. My family, all 22 of us, worked in the field. Wasn't no other work to do. They didn't have no such things as factories. These factories are something new. From sunup to sundown, due to dark, can see to can't. 20-foot sacks over our shoulders down miles of rows. We bent to pluck the cotton blossoming out. As 100-degree heat beat our backs, the dried bristles cut our knuckles and wrists. We picked 15 tons of cotton a season, but couldn't get ahead for our lives. You see, the scale was always tipped in the owner's favor. Our so-called share of the crop never be enough to pay back the money we borrowed from the owner for seed, food, clothing, and supplies. Same sorry situation every season. Black people work so hard, and we ain't got nothing to show for it. I told anyone who would listen, sharecropping was just slavery by a gentler name. The same folks still had us in chains.
Don't y'all be surprised if an accent starts coming out of me as I read this, if I really get into character. Spoiled. I was the baby, and my mother never let anyone in the family forget it. She told my father not to beat me, and she made my sisters and brothers give me piggyback rides, even though I weighed more than some of them. I could get into some mischief too. Like that time I cooked a bag of rice, it boiled over and made a big mess. My father was so angry that I ran off to get away from him. My mother saved me from a beating that time too. My father wasn't always serious though. After a long day in the field, he told jokes. We roasted peanuts and all sang together. Sometimes they'd stand me on the kitchen table and I would break into this little light of mine. I reckon I was a show off. My mother taught me, a strong woman. My mother wore rags, patched with rags so her children could look decent. Even as a girl, I knew things weren't right. Whites had food, clothes, everything, while blacks worked and went hungry. One day I asked, why wasn't I white? So that we could have some food. Don't feel like that, my mother said. We are not bad because we're black people. Next thing I knew, she had bought me a black dog, told me, I want you to respect yourself as a black child. And as you get older, you respect yourself as a black woman. If you respect yourself enough, other people will have respect for you too. My mother taught me years ago that black is beautiful.
Yeah. Now we're talking about why Black History Month is important. All right. So, fair. School was open 4 months, December through March, when children were needed to tend cotton. I like school even if Black history was left out and the textbooks made Black folks seem like fools. I recited poetry and won a spelling bee. Fair. May I have a definition? Free of bias, dishonest, and injustice. Fair. F-A-I-R. Fair. I sang too, up through 6th grade, and then left to work full-time in the fields. My family needed every hand if we were ever to break even. At 13 years old, I picked 300 pounds a week, but I missed my school books. I gathered newspaper scraps alongside the roadside and magazines from the plantation's trash just to have something, anything to read. I was so hungry to learn. My mother drilled this into me. When you read, she said, you know. And if you can help yourself and others. Not much food and rarely meat on our table, often greens with gravy or onions with bread or cornmeal. Neighbors gave my mother chitlins, pig's feet, and hog heads for helping with the slaughter. Our beds were cotton sacks stuffed with corn shucks and grass. We had no electricity, heat, or plumbing, and no money for a doctor to look after whatever caused this limp or to save my mother's sight when a wood chip hit her eye. Once my father managed to buy a wagon, plow, three mules, Ella, Bird, and Henry, and 2 cows, Mullen and Della. But a white neighbor poisoned the livestock. Just couldn't stand to see Black people getting ahead. That knocked us right back down. to doggone dirt poor doing without. My parents never did get a chance to get up again. I sure did miss Delta's milk.
Y'all hear that? Not everyone could move up north. Hardship after hardship wore my father down. By the time I was 22, we had buried him. Most of my brothers and sisters moved up north, hoping for higher pay and a better life. I can't blame them. Jim Crow chokes every chance a black man gets down here. Who wouldn't long for something better? I might have gone too, but my mother needed care. I couldn't bear the thought of her in some nursing home. She was in her 80s, nearly blind and worn down by hard work when she moved in with me. Sometimes I read to her, other times I hear her singing. Songs that were really sank down in me, powerful message songs. I never regretted staying behind. Not a single minute, not a single note.
Worse off than dogs. I married Peter Hamer, Pap as he's known, a good man of few words, steady as a rock. My last name changed, but little else. I joined Pap on the Margot plantation, where he drove tractor. I just picked down different rows. I canned produce, Pap shot rabbits and squirrels, and we caught catfish and perch. On the side, we ran my father's old juke joint and sold bootleg liquor. We never went hungry, but we were still poor. We couldn't stand that Margot's dog, Old Honey, had his own indoor bathroom while me and Pat used the outhouse because our toilet stayed broken. The owner wouldn't fix it, said we didn't need it. Besides picking cotton, I was the timekeeper. I tracked hours worked, bales picked, and pay owed. But the boss fixed the scales to cheat us sharecroppers. When I could, I used my own scale to set things right. When I couldn't, the lie weighed heavy on me, heavily.
Motherhood. In 1954, me and Pap adopted 2 little girls. I sang spirituals to Dorothy Jean and Virgie Reed, just like my mother had done to me. In 1961, a doctor took me into an operation supposedly to remove a growth. I awoke from the surgery to find that the doctor's knife cut more than a small tumor. He had removed the parts that God gave me to bring children into the world. I would never have babies of my own. A Mississippi law at the time said poor folks had no business making babies. That law may have taken my womb, but no one was going to take my voice.
Here we go. Literacy test and the literacy game. All right. In 1962, my friend Mary Tucker told me about a meeting at William Chapel Church. 4 young men from out of town was pushing voter registration. Not a soul sitting in the pews had ever cast a ballot. Till then, I didn't even know that blacks could vote. When the people would get out of the fields, if they had a radio, they'd be too tired to play it. So we didn't know what was going on in the rest of the state, even much less in other places. But my hand flew up when the man asked for volunteers to go to the county courthouse and register. In all, 18 of us signed up for the trip. I was just curious to go, so I did. I guess if I had any sense, I'd have been a little scared. But what was the point of being scared? The only thing they could do to me was kill me, and it seemed like they've been trying to do that a little bit at a time ever since I could remember. An old rented bus drove us 30 miles to Indianola, what was the home of the Violent White Citizens Council. Barking dogs and rifle-toting men met our bus. That was supposed to scare us. The circuit court only let 2 people in the courthouse at a time. I went first. I didn't know what to expect. I had to give my name and workplace and then read, copy, and explain parts of the Mississippi Constitution. I didn't know nothing about the law. No wonder I flunked the test. Now at least I knew that voting was my right.
We just talked yesterday about Sister Septima Clark and the citizenship schools. So, all of this stuff is so intertwined.
Connected.
On the move. On the ride home, a policeman stopped our bus to arrest the driver on account of the yellow bus looked too much like a school bus. A phony charge if I ever heard one. We emptied our pockets, scraped together $30 toward the bogus fine. Back at the plantation, my boss had already set my stuff in the road. Said they wasn't ready for that in Mississippi. He gave me a choice: withdraw my name at the courthouse or move on. All I could say was I didn't go down there to register for you. I was down there to register for myself. Later that night, I left my home and family to move in with the Tuckers. But before long, night riders came around. They shot in the house 16 times, thinking that I was there. I couldn't risk the Tuckers' lives. For 2 months, I moved from place to place, hiding out with friends and family. Then I rented a house in town near my family. Soon as I moved in, I marched back into that courthouse and retook the test. What did I have to lose? There was nothing they could do to me. They couldn't fire me because I didn't have a job. They couldn't put me out of my house because I didn't have one. There was nothing they could take away from me any longer. A month later, I heard that I had passed. The price of freedom. Before I could cast a single vote, I had to pay a poll tax I couldn't afford and dodge the night riders who cruised slow as molasses past my house with guns after my name was printed in the paper. Too bad a voter registration card couldn't pay the rent. When Pap lost his job, we got by on $10 a week raised by those young voting rights workers who opened my eyes to the change coming. I hopped aboard that train.
The Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, SNCC, pronounced SNCC. These young folks were something else. Most belonged to SNCC, the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, what was called SNCC for its initials. The college kids saw me for a leader. I made it plain why I joined the movement. All my life, I've been sick and tired. Now I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired. I toured the South with words from my heart and spirituals I learned at my mother's knee. I fired up many a rally. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine, let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. But I wasn't singing for show. I was singing for freedom. Leadership came natural to me as singing. People took to calling me the spirit of the civil rights movement.
The beating. In June 1963, I went to citizenship school in South Carolina. On the way back, the bus had stopped in Columbus, Mississippi. Me and the other trainees was hungry and decided to try to eat in the terminal. We ordered breakfast at the whites only lunch counter, knowing segregation been outlawed. After a long wait, we was finally served. But the bus driver called the police, and down the road in Winona, we got kicked off the bus and thrown in jail. When I asked what was the charges, the police told me to shut up. They put us in separate cells and made the other prisoners beat us. Black and blue. They just kept beating me. The jailers telling me. Expletives. We're going to make you wish you were dead. Through the pain, I quoted scripture. One prisoner beat me till we were both exhausted. Then the other took over. I waited 3 days for a doctor to show up. SNCC sent someone to bail us out, but the police locked him up and beat him too. It took Andrew Young from the Southern Christian Leadership Conference to get us released. The same day, NAACP leader Medgar Evers was slain in his driveway for teaching Black people their rights. The other said it was my singing that brought them through. That November, John F. Kennedy was killed and Lyndon B. Johnson was sworn in as president. He promised Dr. King to finish what Kennedy couldn't. In July 1964, Johnson signed the Civil Rights Bill into law. The blood of freedom fighters was in his pen.
Injustice. The federal government filed charges against the Winona police. I testified at the trial, but the all-white jury sided with the police. The beating left me more than just bruises and bad memories. A blood clot weakened my eyesight, my kidneys were damaged, and my limp got worse. But I was determined. I was marching towards the promised land. Running. Not even a bad leg could stop me from standing up for what I believed in. Hard as we have to work for nothing, there must be some way we can change things. There must be something else. There was, becoming a lawmaker myself. The next year, I ran for Congress in the Mississippi Freedom Democratic Party. Death threats started to come at me soon as I announced I was running. But I didn't scare easy. I meant to prove that anyone, black or white, rich or poor, can get involved in American politics. I cast my first vote for myself.
And so we have to absorb that when you hear what happened to her, the extent of the damage that was done to her, for what she believed in, for future generations to live better than she did. We have to internalize that. You know, everyone to understand the sacrifices that Black people made in this country. That's a part of when I say Black people owe Black History Month more and our ancestors more. This isn't just a conversation. Like we have to internalize this, like fully understand this and compare and contrast ourselves. The dedication that we have to this Black liberation. All right, Freedom Summer. Later that year, I shared stories and songs with student volunteers about what it was like for Black folks in the Delta. After the training, the students set off on a campaign called Freedom Summer. Some be running freedom schools, teaching reading and the right to vote. The Ku Klux Klan killed some of them students. I knew Michael Schwerner and James Chaney real well. They were murdered along with Andrew Goodman for nosing into church firebombings. If I had known that those young men would wind up dead, I would have told them to stay home. I cried like I lost my own sons. I could take losing the election, but not this. Still, I had to go on. At a government hearing in Washington, D.C., I spoke about my struggles and how we started a new political party in Mississippi because the regular Democrats locked us out. We weren't going to be locked out no more.
The 1964 Democratic National Convention.
Okay,
Atlantic City, New Jersey. I was vice chairman of the new Mississippi Democratic Freedom Party. That August, we sent a delegation to the Democratic Party's National Convention. We went to make a case that the regular Democrats from Mississippi was unlawful because they did not represent Black people. We went to demand a seat at the table, a voice in our democracy. But we had not bargained on dirty deals dreamed up to shut us down. President Lyndon Johnson called a press conference just to get the cameras off me when I spoke before the Credentials Committee. His tricks backfired. The TV networks taped me and ran my statement during prime time when the most people be watching. If the Freedom Democratic Party is not seated now, I said, I question America. Is this America, the land of the free and the home of the brave? We stole the president's thunder, and our support swelled like a storm cloud. Johnson was scared. We could cost him Southern support and the nomination. He sent Hubert Humphrey, a pro-civil rights senator from Minnesota, who wanted to be on the ticket as vice president. Johnson ordered Humphrey to stop us. Humphrey met with me, Dr. King, and our party's lawyer. The lawyer told us we should give in to get Humphrey elected. And I said that our cause was larger than one man. They didn't let me come to no more meetings. They struck a deal without me. We would get 2 at-large delegates. The rest of us would be honored guests and just sit and watch and not vote. We had not come 900 miles for 2 seats. I threatened to slit our chairman's throat if he took the deal. He turned it down. At least state delegations could no longer get away with barring blacks.
That reminds me of Sister Harriet Tubman with the shotgun at the back, and Sister Fanny said, "I will slit your throat." Oh my. Africa. I can't believe how far fame took me. All the way to Guinea with singer Harry Belafonte. When our pilot on the flight from Ghana was black, I knew I was in for an awakening. What little we had read about Africa was just wild. At the time, Guinea had just got independence from France. I was so proud that black people was running the government. I had never even seen black people running banks. I was sort of sad that I was treated better in Guinea than in my own country. I cried when I saw boiled green peanuts like we eat in Mississippi. And when I heard the same tunes that my grandmother had sung, only with different words. So many things reminded me of home. My ancestors spoke to me. I wondered, could some folks I met be my distant kin? I was angry that slavery had cut the ties.
Washington. Back home, I ran for Congress again as a Freedom Democrat, not to win the election, but to prove that the election needed to be thrown out and that the white congressman should not be seated. Why? Because I had been barred from the regular Democratic ticket, and the state had blocked so many blacks from voting. Annie Devine, Victoria Adams, and I took that fight to Congress. We won more support than expected, but not as much as we needed. Annie, Victoria, and I was right there when the decision was read. We were the first black women ever to sit in Congress on the House floor. But the history making didn't go to my head. In 1965, I went back to my grassroots work, suing Sunflower County for blocking black voter registration and marching with Dr. King in Alabama and Mississippi. We registered thousands of new voters in spite of police beating so bad that Congress was shamed into passing the Voting Rights Act.
Black power. Say it loud. I'm black and I'm proud. James Brown. Black power had become the battle cry of the movement. For me, that meant pride and equal rights. But for Stokely Carmichael and the new head of SNCC, it meant fighting if need be. And it meant having an all-black staff. Hurt my heart to lose Bob Zellner and the other white workers so committed for so long. How could I hate? I mourn whites who died for freedom. I have lived long enough to know that no race has a corner on decency. I feel sorry for anybody that could let hate wrap them up. Ain't no such thing as I can hate anybody and hope to see God's face. Out of a blood, God made all nations. So I have to say something right here. I don't think that, a differing opinion here is that I don't think that there was any advocacy of hate. I think we understand when we're dealing with traumas. If you are dealing with women who have been victims of sexual assault, a lot of times they want to receive counseling from other women as they work through the trauma. And I understand the reason behind Brother Stokely Carmichael and what he was doing. I don't think that hate was a motive. I think it was, traumas and getting, the house in order. And that's a whole nother conversation in and of itself. But I would be remiss to not, as we go through this story, that's a perspective that some may have. It's a perspective that I differ from. The fact that, the change in leadership and the way that he looked at things.
Okay, you got more out of that than I did. I did not associate the comment with the change in leadership, but I hear your point.
Well, she said it though.
She said that Black power had become the battle cry of the movement. For me, that meant pride and equal rights. But for Stokely Carmichael, the new head of SNCC, It meant fighting if need be, and it meant having an all-black staff. But in any event, I hear you. We'll talk about
Yeah,
it.
I feel like she took that all black staff as she goes on to talk about in this. I didn't hate anyone. I hated to see us lose our white staff who had been there for a long time, and I didn't have any hate for anyone, is what she said. So I'm like, I don't see that as I don't see his views as being motivated by hate.
Yeah, well, I'm not. I agree with you, but at the same time, I don't know the full context. We're just reading a snippet of of something that has been written in her honor. So
If anybody interpreted the way that I did, others may interpret it the way you did. But if anybody caught it the way that I did, I felt that the explanation was worthy of being put out there. The context.
Well, can I talk about America's problem?
You do that.
All right, America's problem. On my fundraising tour, I call racism America's problem. Whatever you give, I told the crowd, is not only to free me in Mississippi, but it's also to free yourselves, because no man is an island. Racists can be some kind of rats, though. In 1967, my daughter Dorothy took sick after her second child was born. I drove more than 90 miles all the way to Memphis, Tennessee, to find a hospital would treat blacks. Then, right outside the hospital main entrance, my Dorothy passed away in my arms. Gone. Just like that, because she's sick and couldn't get enough to eat. Now me and Pop got grandbabies to raise. I prayed their future would be brighter. In 1967, Robert Clark, a Freedom Democrat, cracked the door to the State House. He was the first black person elected to the Mississippi legislature since Reconstruction, when slavery had just ended. In 1968, Dr. King and Bobby Kennedy, a senator running for president, were both killed. Those were dark days.
No rest. Summer of 1968, I sat at the Democratic National Convention in Chicago as part of the Loyalist delegation, what was formed to crush the Freedom Democrats. Still, I let my voice be heard for aid to farmers and against the war in Vietnam. I was weary as an old soldier, but I couldn't rest. No, I couldn't. Not as long as blacks was poor, schools was segregated, and black teachers was discriminated against. Not as long as laws was being holding women back. One day, an old white man told me he appreciated me doing what he was afraid to do. Ain't no telling how long he wanted change. He could not be free until I was free. I had always believed we serve God by serving our fellow man. And no child should know what hunger is. So I started a freedom farm, a pig bank, and a Head Start program. And I help folks living in shacks get hold of government housing laws. I mine a lot of pots. I given my 2 cents to women's liberation movement. I won a lawsuit against Sunflower County to integrate the black schools. And I lost a bid for state senate in 1971. The outcome was rigged against me. But 55 blacks was elected in Mississippi that year, a record for a southern state. And in 1976, the Congressional Black Caucus, made up of black Congress people, gave me a lifelong service award. Now, maybe I had won after all. Maybe I had won after all.
Hey, if I may, in the very beginning of this book, there's a quote here from that's attributed to Fannie Lou Hamer, and it says that the truest thing that we have in this country at this time is little children. If they think you've made a mistake, kids, speak out.
Yes.
Yeah. So children.
Yes, I saw that. I'm glad you reminded, because I forgot. Is that not so relevant?
Yeah. Children,
let's say that again for the people who didn't hear it.
Yeah, children will out you in a heartbeat. The truest thing that we have in this country at this time is little children. If they think you've made a mistake, kids, speak out.
Exactly. And our movement here is to empower our children and make sure that they have platforms to speak out, and make sure that they are informed with the knowledge to be able to be confident to speak out. and to know what they are speaking of. You know, a lot of times people don't feel confident speaking out in certain places and situations because they have a feeling, but they may not know how to articulate exactly. I know something is wrong, but I don't know how to necessarily put that in words. So this work here is important that our children know and that we build bridges again, that we are able to juxtapose what happened before to what happened now. And again, you know, Sister Fannie Lou Hamer, I looked it up today. I think she passed away in 1977. So, you know, my parents were young, very young adults at that time. So, we're not taught, again, this is not ancient history. This is by no means ancient history. And so we hope that you all learned some things about Fannie Lou Hamer tonight. And I hope again that we internalize this and we understand the importance of this and that we are able to carry the torch. Before we do get out of here, Rodney, I would like for you to share, because in the beginning you talked about knowing our local history. You know, you said there is so much history to be found. There is this national history. There's the international history, but there's the local history that is, you know, just glossed over, glanced over, forgotten about all the time in the towns that we live in, the places that we pass by every day. So if you guys don't know, Rodney is a treasure trove of local history. So if you don't mind, before we get out here, you were telling us about some things within your own family that were relevant to what we've been talking about today. So please do drop that knowledge on us, brother.
Well, when you you know, let me know that part of our intent today was to uplift Fannie Lou Hamer, I was just searching, you know, doing some searching on the internet, because I knew that one of the local attorneys, or attorney that was here in the 1950s, 1960s, his name is Lynn Holt. And Lynn Holt was one of my uncle's law partners. So for a couple of years, they had this law firm called Jordan, Dawley, and Holt. And so Lynn Holt, I discovered this photograph from a Jet magazine in, I guess, 1964. And it had a picture of Lynn Holt there with Dr. King and others who were down in Mississippi as part of SNCC, in order to, you know, with the Freedom Riders. You know, they were down there for the Mississippi summer. And so when I was Googling, I came across this letter that was written by James Farmer, and it was an exchange that was going on between Lynn Holt and the law firm and James Farmer. I'm just going to try to read some of that real quick for you. So I'm sorry, I keep saying James Farmer, but James Foreman, who was the executive secretary of SNCC, and Charles McDew was the chairman. So this is a letter that's dated March 27th, 1962. It's written to attorney Lynn Holt of Jordan, Dawley, and Holt, 721 East Brambleton Avenue, Norfolk, Virginia. And it reads, "Dear Mr. Holt, the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee is requesting that you aid in the case of Brenda Travis, who is currently at the Cakeley Training School for Colored Girls in Raymont, Mississippi. We should hope that you will be able to institute some legal proceedings to free her from this institution. Whatever you are able to do, please keep us apprised. Best of luck." And then there's a letter written back to James Foreman and Chuck McDew from Lynn Holt, written on the stationery of Jordan, Dawley, and Holt, April 2nd, 1962. So I was just fascinated. You know, I'd never seen that before. And I just started Googling, you know, Fannie Lou Hamer and SNCC, Fannie Lou Hamer in Norfolk, and that came up. And so I just was kind of fascinated by the fact that, you know, right here in our own backyard, 721 East Brambleton Avenue, here you had this exchange going on between some lawyers in Norfolk, Virginia, and leaders of SNCC addressing cases and activities with, you know, down in Mississippi. Again, no internet, No modern technology like we have today. And these folks were fighting the fight right there with SNCC to give us many of the opportunities that we have today, like Fannie Lou Hamer talked about, being involved, being able to vote, and being able to make sure that democracy included all of us. So I was just fascinated by that today.
So I am a whole, history geek and fiend. So I propose that when it's, deemed safe and everybody's comfortable, that we have like a bi-weekly or monthly archive party at the Jordan crib. and, and that and then we come through and you pull out just a few archives, or we have a location that we decide for people who are interested. I'm so serious. And we come through and we dig through those things and we talk about those things. And we relate those things to now. And we let those things, fuel us in this work that we're doing right now. But I think that we should have an archive party. I
Well,
mean it.
Well, there are real professional historians here in this area, and right over at Norfolk State University, they have archives there, and one of my aunts was the librarian over there years ago when I was in high school and junior high school, and I would just invite people once the pandemic allows for folks to go and explore the archives at Norfolk State University. Go over
He's
to
trying to
the
get out of it. That
go,
is
go
that a
over to the
no?
museum on the
Is
great
that a
campus.
no? Is that no? You're not gonna
I'm
hold
not
the
saying that at
archive?
all. I'm not saying
Okay.
it at all. I mean, at the great campus of Hampton University, no, I'm always willing to share. My only point is that I think that
We can have it there.
all of our families have mementos and treasures in history, and so I will take you up on that challenge. I will just say, you got all these other challenges that are out there. Maybe Clever Communities in Action needs to start a history archive challenge and encourage families from all around the country during the rest of this Black History Month to go look in their own archives and go and post on the CCIA Facebook page letters and archives of history that they find and that they have. And I think that
So what's the first step if somebody was interested in doing that? Because my family on my father's side, they've done that. My uncle and I were just having some conversations about that last week. They had found some new. They gone back even further, but not so much on my mother's side. We haven't done that work. But what would you say step one is if somebody was interested in that? Do they need to go through one of those ancestry.com
Oh
things?
no, I mean you can do that, but I'm not even saying that deep. One of
That
the
far
traditions.
back? So yeah, how would you suggest if we have people viewing this or viewing it on the playback and they're like, where do they start?
I can, like I said, this is not my field of expertise, but I tell you one thing that I have found that a lot of our ancestors, especially our mothers and grandmothers, did. They would write down family history in the family Bible. So if you've got a family Bible, I bet if you open it up, you might find some notes from your grandmother, some history, some letters that are in there. But I was just simply saying that if we have virtual villagers who are out there and they have some archives or have some stories that they want to tell or some old letters, that might be a way of getting the virtual village to begin to share some of the history. And so as we go through we have a few more weeks, or at least a couple of weeks, that you and I will be up here, and we might find an opportunity to not only tell the stories of the Fannie Lou Hamers, but tell the stories of these unsung heroes that I know that Clever Communities in Action is involved with trying to make sure it gets archived and gets told. So that was the point I was making. And I will start
Definitely that.
I'll start by taking this letter I just read, and I'll post it tonight and tag you on it.
Excellent. So definitely that. And also if you have grandmothers or great grandmothers who are living now, get that. We have such easy technology now to pull up next to them, pull our phone out, push record, and to be an archivist to make sure that we get that information before we lose that generation. So these things are extremely important. And I mean, I found out things about my grandparents after they passed away that were remarkable. You know, things that I wish I had known while they were living, so that I could have had conversations and asked a lot of questions during that time. And that pains me to this day. Like I think about it probably at least every week, how I hate that I wasn't able to have those conversations. But I'm so serious about as the world turns, back to some point of normalcy, that we have this archive party. If we can't do it every day, every month, that we do it quarterly, and we get together with Rodney and we have this archive party. I don't care what you say about professionals or whatever. We went, look, Sister Fannie Lou Hamer is a testament that you don't need to have a degree in anything to be effective in it, okay? So, and I hope y'all enjoyed my trying to do her voice. I am a Southern woman. I am from Alabama. I am a Black woman, and that comes out of me sometimes.
Well, I'm glad you acknowledged it, because when you said that you were going in character, I started to say you just being yourself. So, but I'm glad you acknowledged it.
Oh, I'm Alabama, VA, GA. That's all the places that I roam. But I was birthed in Gadsden, Alabama. So definitely. And I love Southern accents. They make me feel comfortable. Like, it just reminds me of home. So anyway, thank you all for tuning in. It is our pleasure to bring these conversations. Next Tuesday, we will have a community connector here with us. We will have a guest, so be on the lookout if we reveal who that is the early part of next week. And Sister Lakeisha said loved it, especially Rodney singing.
This little light of mine.
Oh man, look what you did. Look what you did, Lakeisha. But we appreciate you all tuning in. If you like this programming, if you see value in our children telling our stories, if you see value in Rodney and I having these conversations and reading these stories, make sure that you click the button, the share button for us right now. And we have shared with you all 5 ways in which you can support Clever Communities in Action and other Black-led and Black-focused nonprofits and businesses. Can we get that graphic real quick right now, you guys? 5 ways you can support Clever Communities in Action. Share our content, like and subscribe to us on Facebook and YouTube as Clever Communities in Action. Leave a Google review. Make us your Amazon Smile charity. Go to smile.amazon.com and add us as your Amazon Smile charity. And every time you make a purchase, a portion of your proceeds will go to Clever Communities in Action, or you can donate, and you can go to clevercommunities.org/donate. Or if you're a Cash App person, that's $ Clever Communities. Or if you're a PayPal person, that is donation@clevercommunities.org. But if you believe in this work, if you understand that literacy is liberation and that we must tell our own stories and that we must have children who are strong readers and that we must give our children a voice, then those are 5 ways that you can support us. And right now at the top, it says share the content. So make sure you click that share button and tell somebody who knows somebody. If you have not liked our Facebook page and subscribed to us on YouTube, please make sure that you go do that right now. So thank you all so much for tuning in. It is our pleasure. And I'll be back tomorrow with one of our teachers. And they will be bringing those foundational literacy lessons. And our young people will be bringing the affirmations, the moments in history, and the book recommendations. And look out, we are posting our moments in history from last season, season 3. So you can get those in bite-sized nuggets. And we suggest that you guys play those moments in history with your children, with your loved ones, and go back and listen to it and have conversations. We are dropping the jewels here, and we are giving them in bite-sized pieces. And hopefully it's something palatable for the youth and for you. And then you guys can go further at your will, okay? But we are providing it. We are providing it. And please add this book. Please add that book to your arsenal, okay? To the home libraries for the children in your lives, okay? So thank you all. It's been wonderful. It's been real. Mr. Jordan, can you take us on out of here tonight?
Yeah, just been another great night in the virtual village. And if you want to join the literacy game, come on. You saw 5 ways that you can participate. Here's another way. Join the literacy game.
Gang, gang. All right, y'all. Good night.